Happy Easter!
Happy Easter!
Happy Easter, you guys. I'm so glad you're here to celebrate Easter with everyone. Say, have you guys ever wondered why Easter is such a special day?
Well, Easter is about the resurrection of Jesus Christ, who was raised to life from death. And all those who have faith in Jesus as God and Savior, but it's more than that.
Yeah, Easter is about the resurrection of the whole universe. That one day we will be delivered from sin and pain and hatred and prejudice and racism, sense of shooting, death, and all the damaging effects of the curse. But I think it's even more than that.
You're right. You know, the new creation you were talking about, God has been thinking about and planning it ever since the moment that humanity fell under the curse. Easter is about the fact that this new creation has already begun, and God's kickstarted the renewal process, and you and I are invited to be a part of it.
Hey, this curse that you speak of, are we talking about the original curse for when Adam and Eve first sinned?
Exactly, that curse. You know, in the beginning, life in the Garden of Eden was filled with God's blessing and abundance. But after Adam and Eve disobeyed God, they broke God's one simple rule for living happily ever after. You know, the curse is the consequence and the penalty of that fall. And they had to be evicted from the garden and forced to experience the pain of suffering finite lives. Not only do we share the same fate, but all of humanity has to suffer the consequence of separation from God from now to eternity.
You know, God did not put the curse into his people, and it saddens him to see his people suffer from the awful effects of sin.
So the curse left us lost in darkness, broken and hopeless, covered in the ugliness of sin and despair. And no matter what we do, we just can't bridge the great chasm between God and man.
But by God's infinite grace and mercy, he had a grand plan to reverse that curse. Scripture says, for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. The wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life through his Son, Jesus Christ.
I remember another passage that says, but God demonstrates his own love for us in this. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Wow. You know, I just recall something very interesting. Did you realize that the scene of the first crime ever committed took place in the garden, and also God's redemptive work was also set in the garden?
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Really?
So we know about the first garden. That's the Garden of Eden, where Adam and Eve first sinned. The second garden, that's the Garden of Gethsemane, which is where Jesus and his disciples went to pray the night before he was crucified. I seem to recall the name Gethsemane. That has a very special meaning.
I remember now. Gethsemane means olive grass, because that was at the base of the Mount of Olives.
Yeah, and in ancient and current time, olive oil is used for beauty, healing, and life. And Jesus put beauty into the world where beauty is not.
He brings about healing in all the hurts.
He is the light in the midst of our darkened world.
We invite you into the lives of the real people who have a living relationship with our Lord Jesus Christ.
Jesus brought about healing, beauty, and light in the lives of these individuals.
Let's meet Carl.
It just dawned upon me that, you know, all the years, even before this, I've never stepped foot into open door mission. And I heard, since I've been back, that we were committed to go the second Sunday of each month to share and help them serve lunch. So that sort of caught my eye, so to speak. I said, you know, I've been here all these years and I've never, ever been there. So I said, okay, I'm going to go one Sunday. They were probably 90% men and a couple of women. As I walked down there and saw their physical condition, not that I don't think feeling sorry for them is not the word. I think just the condition they were in, and said, I could encourage them, or I think I can. Maybe I was thinking way ahead to provide them with clothing or whatever they need, or or when I found out that we can stay there after the program, we had a short message, singing a couple of songs, and then serving food to them at the food line. There's needs. Needs, first of all, probably physically. Whether they need a warm clothes, or the clothes, or hose, stuff like that. And then I see beyond that their heart, and I said, they need to know who Jesus Christ still loves them unconditionally. I think that's the biggest word, unconditional. God loves them, the people over them, as He loves me. So when I went home that Sunday, just thinking about what I saw firsthand, and I think God just touched my heart. I said, I think He said, Paul, maybe you can be an encouragement or share, when you have the opportunity, share the good news or give your testimony one of those Sundays, which I said, yes, yes, yes. I think God puts in our heart when we see another person that has not made a commitment to the Lord, that I look back at my life, it wasn't for certain people in my life that I would not be a child of God. So I want to share that when I meet people that I find out that, they don't never been to church or whatever, or they just go to church, or you ask them, are you saved, or do you know who Jesus Christ is? Trying to, ask them general questions and really ask them if they are genuinely accepted the Lord. I think that's what I think God has put upon my heart to share with people I meet. God looks at everyone the same. Don't look at me because I may dress up better, or God doesn't looks at me what I say or do in the past. But when God looks into the heart of a person, no matter who we all have different times in our life that we struggle with, we go through, whether it's physical ailments, or it's losing jobs. What Faye and I are going through, we have a change of life outside. But that doesn't stop us from being God's, being a testimony or servant or whatever we can do. Whether we're 100% physically, or we have ailments, or we have times where we may lose a job or whatever. That doesn't mean that God doesn't love us. We are changed. I know I'm changed because of what is important in my life now, what I appreciate more. And God is not through with me.
to know that God is in the restoration business.
He takes our weaknesses and replaces it with His strength.
He takes our failures and He gives us His victory.
And He takes our hurts and replaces it with His healing.
Let's see how God is going to reverse the curse in the lives of these ladies.
You know, you and I are both women, we're both wives, moms, and, you know, I have a story, you have a story. That shaped us to be who we are today. So yeah, so what's your story?
Yes. Well, growing up, there was a lot of abuse toward me because my dad, he had 3 sons and a daughter. He wanted 4 sons. And as an adult, he told me that. And so growing up, he would tell me that I was worthless, that he was ashamed of me, that, and this was not like after I gave him a bad report card. It was just in general. As a kid, you don't know. And I thought, well, maybe I am, because the person who was part of bringing me into the world tells me I'm worthless and that I'll never amount to anything. I became a believer when I was only 6 years old. So I had a relationship with God starting very, very young. And as I was growing up, he gave me a different message. I was hearing these negative messages and somewhat believing them, but then in my heart I knew that I could do whatever God would enable me to do. Where I see a lot of girls get into a cycle of they have an abusive relationship from their dad, and then they get into an abusive relationship with the men in their life in the future and things like that. Because I had God in my life, I knew what to avoid that way. And I remember my dad telling me as an adult, he said, and well, I abused you because I was abused and I didn't know any better. So there was a little bit of a feeling as a young adult as, oh, is this a cycle? But I always had God telling me it doesn't have to be that way, because He enables us to do better and be different. And by His grace, I just look at what He's given me in my husband and my children and my life and ministries. And I can't believe that that little girl with a horrible self-esteem is in this position right now. And seeing how much Jesus overcame in doing that. I mean, to overcome death itself is, and all that sin that He took upon Himself to conquer all of that, and looking at the difficult circumstances in my day-to-day life, He's already conquered far more than this. So He's more than capable of overcoming these other things as well. Often in the process, He gets a lot of glory in that too.
But growing up in my family, I think in ways not unsimilar to yours, my father was an interesting character too. I wasn't physically abused nor verbally abused. Actually, he was a very quiet man, but my father had problems with alcohol. Growing up, I remember I would try to substitute his whiskey with tea. You name it, I try to get him to quit. I even dreamt of running away. I had a plan all laid out, and that was the ultimatum, that if he doesn't quit, I would not come home. So I believed in God, but I always wondered why He put me in this family where my father was an alcoholic, and why my mother and father, had marital issues, and why was I stuck in the middle? And so I think I was angry for a long time, and my way out was actually avoidance. I try to be out of the house as much as possible. Yeah, I grew up, I would say, a good Asian girl who did well in school, didn't swear most of the time. But the only time, seriously, the only time that I swore was at my father, because I was so angry. Yeah, I was really around high school when I started getting involved with my church youth group, and that I started to come out of my shell a little bit. It's really by God's grace. I think I could have gone the other way, sort of like what you shared, I could have gone the other way, but God really protected me. And it wasn't until college, I think maybe, through more maturity and God really shaping me, that I realized he didn't know any better. He didn't have other role models, and he also didn't have God. So I think I became more compassionate. So it was really interesting that how God turned it around, that I come from a large family, but I have to say that it was a privilege that I was the one who really ushered my parents into eternity. I was there when my dad died. I was with him. And it was actually around this time, it was around Easter. And that was an assurance that Christ has conquered all. And I remember I had to also sing for church cantata, and the song was "The Battle Belongs to the Lord." And that year was very special because it really reminded me that, throughout life, that it's not just my battle that I have to deal with, but whatever we battle, it's God's, and He, and our Lord has overcome all. So, yeah.
From your wounds
Pain is real, but the death, the burial, and the resurrection of Jesus Christ give new meaning to that pain.
The resurrection of Jesus proves that no matter what our hurts are, no matter what we've been through in the past or are going to go through, Jesus has overcome. And he can make us overcomers as well if we trust Jesus to be our Lord and Savior.
Yeah, when we trust in what Jesus did on our behalf, we begin to see his resurrection power in and around us. Power to transform lives.
And power to bring us out of darkness and into light, and give eyes to those who are wandering in the darkness.
Power to reverse the curse.
Let's hear one more story about this very thing.
So my parents, we never went to church, and they never talked about God. In fact, it was long time later that I learned that they ever went to church at all, or that they were baptized. My grandmother would insist that you don't use the Lord's name in vain. It's like, okay, why? I was in Boy Scouts, we would meet in a church, so that was about as much church as I ever got when I was young. I kind of had this vague notion that God existed. I would blame him for things when things would go wrong and that sort of thing, but that was it. No real steeping in the worldview or any doctrine or anything. And thanks to Western education, of course, I thought the Big Bang was the answer to why we're here, evolution explained why there's life, and that was all I needed to know. And people are generally good, so we can make our own rules, right? Enter Antonia into my life, and I become aware of, oh yeah, church, and okay, I should probably attend with her sometimes, and so we kind of worked out an arrangement how often we would go. And Christina was born, and I thought, okay, I really need to commit to coming to church more often, so I started coming more often. So Pastor Paul, Antonia's brother, he sent a link to Facebook or something. It came to me, and it was Tim Keller talking at Google. I'm like, well, I respect Google. It's high tech. I work in high tech. I totally can identify with that audience. And Tim Keller talking about the reason for God. Very, very specific wording there. The reason for God, right? Not blind faith. No. Specific, thoughtful reasoning for the existence of God. So it's a typical Google Tech talk here, not so much tech, but a typical Google talk is about 45 minutes and 15 minutes of questions. And so he goes over the highlights of his book, titled Reason for God. And I was like, wow, this is really compelling. And a couple of people in the audience, they're 20-something, and they ask these ridiculous questions, but he handled it real well. And so it's really interesting. So I'm going to buy this book and read it. So I bought the book. It sat on the shelf for a long time. And I think that's when somebody tried to give me another book. It's like, okay, I'm going to try really hard. I'm going to read a book. I'm going to read the one that I think my intuition is telling me is the right one to read. So I picked up The Reason for God, and I just read the whole thing. And it was like 10 arguments for the reason to believe in God that I could not argue with. It wasn't just that. He completely dismantled the whole assumption the secular world has that atheism, that there's no God, that the Big Bang explains everything, and so on. And he dismantled all that. And I had no comeback. I had no reason to not believe what he was saying. So then I realized all my arguments are gone. I have nothing left to stand on. How did this happen? Oh, Pastor Paul sent me that thing and I read that book, and that was really amazing. That was like 9 out of 10 arguments I had were knocked down. And then he sends this other video a while later and then knocks down the last thing. Oh, okay. Now at this point I had been watching various videos. I've been watching Great Comfort stuff because it's interesting, and I've been trying to read a little bit, listening to podcasts like Tim Keller's podcast and so on. So I was beginning to have a better understanding of what Christianity was and arguments for it. And so I had nothing left to deny the truth. And so when I put all that together, I realized somehow God is speaking to me through Pastor Paul. He's like, he gave me what I needed and at the right time so that I could finally come to it myself. And then when I realized that, there's no way Pastor Paul knew this stuff. That was the other thing. I mean, he's my brother-in-law. We see each other, but we never talk about this. So how would he know what my doubts were? How would he know what questions I had? How would he know where I was in this search, right? And that's when I started to believe, I think. I intentionally put my mind to believing that there must be God. It must be true. I don't know what to do with it yet, but I'm going to believe.